Welcome into NBA Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Senior. Really excited for today's show as we officially start our coverage in the lead up to the 2022 NBA Draft. This is our first mock draft following the NCAA Tournament. On today's show, we're going to be focusing on the draft lottery only, so picks 1 through 14. Let's set the foundation for you really quickly. The lottery drawing to see which teams pick where in the NBA draft lottery is going to take place on May 17th during the thick of the NBA playoffs. The official NBA draft date is set for June 23rd, and today's order is based on record as we record this on Wednesday, April 6th. So that's how all of these selections kind of fall in line. So without further ado, let's start off our first NBA mock draft here at Chat Sports with the first overall pick to the Houston Rockets. I'm going with Paolo Banchero out of Duke. Had a really terrific regular season. He really impressed me throughout the NCAA tournament as well. This is a player who can guard multiple positions and play multiple positions, and in today's positionless NBA, I think his game is going to be immediately able to translate. You take a look at his numbers this year in 39 games, more than 17 points per game. He's a pretty good rebounder and has good instincts in that area. The field goal percentage, very respectable at sub 48%. Three-point shot is going to continue to develop. Hopefully, he has that corner three down, has that wing three down, and at times, he was really hot with the stroke from beyond the arc, but I expect him to get better from downtown. 34% in his freshman year. Pretty respectable numbers for Banchero. When I watched him all year long, these are really the takeaways I have up to this point. And of course, this is so fluid, but as of right now, in the months leading up to the NBA draft, these are my big takeaways for Banchero. Love his size at 6'10", 250. A lot of people think that he has a player comp of Chris Webber. I think he can do more off the dribble than a player like Chris Webber and hit a pull-up three. Plays and guards multiple positions, as I talked about. He can really handle for his size at 6'10", 250. He was really confident during the tournament. I thought he stepped up in some big moments for Duke when they needed a bucket. He was able to get it. I think he's a pretty good passer as well. As for the questions about Banchero, they do come down to his defense. Maybe that's more so effort as compared to defensive IQ, but an area we're going to continue to monitor in the weeks and months leading up to the NBA draft. Going number 2 to the Orlando Magic, the number 2 player on my big board, and really Banchero and Jabari Smith are so closely tied. I really like Smith. He didn't have a great round of 32 matchup in the NCAA tournament, but throughout this year, he displayed a bevy of skills that I think can make him an immediate impact player. And if he goes to a team like Orlando, playing that forward spot, they're pretty loaded at the wing and guard spots. He'd be a really good fit for the upstart Orlando Magic. His numbers this past year, almost 17 points per game for a team that was consistently number 1 in the rankings. Very good rebounder like Banchero at 7.5 boards. What's interesting here, he only shot about 43% from the field, but 42% from beyond the arc. Scouting Jabari Smith, not as thick and not as large in terms of his weight as Paolo Banchero, but he's 6'10", 220, super bouncy and long. That, more so better than Banchero, attacks the rim ferociously. He threw down a couple of highlight reel-worthy dunks this past year that made you stop in your tracks and say, wow, that athleticism, it's going to work at the NBA level. What I like about him as well, he can play inside, outside, has a little fadeaway and mid-range jumper, and he's really tough to guard because he has a really high release, whether it be on those pull-ups or those fadeaways or some of those three-point shots, and I think that allows him to put the biscuit in the basket early on in his NBA career. So in my opinion, my top 2 players in this draft class as of now are Paolo Banchero and Jabari Smith. I want to pose this question for the audience because this is going to be a big debate going into the draft. Who's better among these two? Type P for Paolo, J for Jabari Smith. Get those votes in. That'll be the pinned comment on today's YouTube video. So if you get hit with that YouTube ad break, just scroll on down and get your votes in. The number 3 player for me in this class, it's Jaden Ivey. Yes, ahead of Chet Holmgren, who we'll talk about out of Gonzaga coming up here momentarily. I love Ivey's game, and the jump that he made from his freshman year to his sophomore campaign was very, very impressive for a Purdue team that made it deep into the NCAA tournament before falling to the Cinderella St. Peter's squad. 17 points per game as a sophomore, up from 11 his freshman year, has a really good basketball IQ, as there's been some coaching in his family family, grew up in the Notre Dame area, right there in South Bend, Indiana, was a legend in Indiana and as far as his high school game. 3 assists. I'd like to see his creation and his vision improve just a little bit. 36% from beyond the arc in his sophomore campaign. 6'4", 200 pounds. He has shades of a less bouncy Ja Morant. But Ja Morant is like all-time bouncy, right up there with Russell Westbrook and Derrick Rose. Jaden Ivey isn't quite that level of athlete, but he certainly has some springs to him. Big freshman to sophomore jump, as I talked about. He's a heady basketball player because of the basketball lineage in his family, and I love the dog in Jaden Ivey. Never scared of the moment. He hit that big shot against St. Peter's. Yes, he missed that last shot, but in that possession previous, little sidestep 3, and that sidestep 3 always works at the NBA level, and I just love the confidence that Jaden Ivey possesses. The number 3 player on my big board, I have him going 3 to the Detroit Pistons. Chet Holmgren out of Gonzaga going number 4 to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Chet Holmgren is probably the most fascinating NBA draft evaluation, arguably, that we've ever seen, because nobody knows how he's going to be able to add to his frame, and if he doesn't add to his frame, how does that frame translate and work at the NBA level, and does it even work regardless? 14 points per game for the Zags in his freshman year, coming out of the Minneapolis area. 9.9 rebounds, so basically a walking double-double night in and night out. And what's impressive about Chet Holmgren, it's his defensive instincts, his defensive ability. He averaged, of course, in a subpar conference, nearly 4 blocks per night. But he is a good rim protector, and that could work at the NBA level now that the NBA game is a little bit more finesse. Around 61% from the field. He can also stroke the 3 as well. Now, he's listed at 7 foot 195 pounds. I highly doubt he's 195 pounds. I mean, your boy here, I'm 6 foot 180, and there's no way that Chet Holmgren is 15 pounds heavier than me. So we'll see what he comes in at the NBA Draft Combine. He might be the hardest evaluation ever because he's a 7-footer who has a handle, who has a pull-up 3. He can guard the rim, but how does he go up against players like Joel Embiid or even a backup center like Andre Drummond, a guy like Jonas Valanciunas or Nikola Jokic? And what position is he? Is he a 5? Is he a 4? Is he more of a stretch 4? The size and frame, I have serious concerns about it because I'm not sure with his kind of shoulder structure how he's going to be able to add a bunch of weight to that frame. Now, Kevin Durant coming out of Texas into the NBA, he was also thin, but he had a frame where you could add some weight onto it. I have some concerns about that with Chet Holmgren, but to his credit, he plays tough. He protects the rim, and he's not scared to block shots around the rim against more physical big men. Now, will Holmgren be a good NBA player? It's another opportunity for you to hop on board and be a part of the show like I am as the host. I want you to treat the comment section like a Sports Talk Radio call-in line and get those votes in once more. Type Y for yeah, you think he's going to be a good player, N for no, sound off in the comment section. Today's show presented to you by the fine folks at Rumble, a new partner here at Chat Sports and on NBA Now. And we've been pushing out exclusive content and NBA news and rumors content on Rumble only. And as compared to our other flagship show here at Chat Sports, NFL Daily, we're down by about 1,100 subscribers. So show me that you love Chat Sports, you love the content that we push out, but also that you're a true hooper by going to rumble.com/NBA Now. And when you're there, hit that green subscribe button so we can catch up to NFL Daily. Going number 5 to the Indiana Pacers, a guy who was on nobody's radar when he was playing high school basketball, but with Iowa this past year was awesome. Keegan Murray at his size, 6'9", 6'10", can stretch the floor as a modern-day big, but can also mix it up off the dribble. His numbers this past year were terrific. 23.5 points per game, nearly 9 boards, 55% shooting, and almost 40% from downtown. If Keegan Murray is going to be able to connect on about 40% of his field goals throughout his NBA career, he is going to be in the league for a really long time. Now, how does he project moving forward, and does he have untapped potential, or is he the player that he is right now and not much more? We will see about that with Keegan Murray, but he can really play. And considering where he came from a couple of years ago when he was in the high school ranks, didn't really get any large offers. He goes to Iowa, and over time, he's really been able to improve. One of the more fascinating and intriguing prospects in this respective draft class. we'll run through these next couple of picks and next few picks to round out our first mock draft, going through the lottery selections here in a little bit more of a quicker fashion. Jeremy Sohan out of Baylor, awesome player. Reminds me a lot of a couple of players who we're going to break down here in just a few moments, but I had an opportunity to watch him in that round of 32 game against UNC. I thought he was terrific, can play and can guard multiple positions. I love his basketball IQ, how tough he is, and he ain't scared at all. I have him going to the Trailblazers at 6. I think that's a good fit. A.J. Griffin, number 7 to the Sacramento Kings. They could use a forward/wing type. Benedict Mathurin out of Arizona, one of my favorite players in this draft class because he's hyper athletic and a really, really good guard. And also, I'll be tweeting out a lot of my draft evaluations on Twitter and Instagram at Chase_Senior. Make sure you give me a follow. It's the same handle on both social media platforms. It was really unfortunate for us as Hoopers and for Shaedon Sharpe that he wasn't able to play for Kentucky this past year. They go down in the first round to St. Peter's before St. Peter's and the Peacocks end up going to the Elite Eight. We didn't get an opportunity to see one of the best players in this class. Have him going number 9 to San Antonio Spurs. He fulfills a need, and I really like his upside. Then Jalen Duren out of Memphis. They really gave Gonzaga fits in that round of 32 because they were so much more athletic than the Zags. Number 10 to the Washington Wizards. I like the fit and how his game could translate on that basketball team. Before we get to some of the player comps for the guys who I just talked about, who is your favorite NBA draft prospect in this class? Is it a player like Jabari Smith, Paolo Banchero, another guy who's fallen under the radar? Drop me a name or names in the comment section. So Sohan reminds me a little bit of Ben Simmons / Sean Marion because of his positional flexibility and how he can contribute on both ends of the floor. Again, he really popped for me when I saw him at Dickies Arena in the round of 32 against UNC. Ben Simmons, Sean Marion, the player comps for him. As far as A.J. Griffin, has a little bit of Jimmy Butler in his game, but I think he has more of a better three-point stroke. T.J. Warren, because when he can be a microwave scorer and A.J. Griffin can get hot, reminds me in that fashion of T.J. Warren. Benedict Mathurin, kind of a Pacers Paul George. Now, Paul George, when he came into the league, was a little bit bulkier, but similar games with Paul George and Mathurin. As for Sharpe, a little bit of a Jalen Green type, twitchy athlete, and Jalen Green over his last 6 games has dropped 30 or more points in each one of those matchups. I think the arrow for him is going to point extremely high going into his sophomore campaign, and if Shaedon Sharpe can become Jalen Green, whoever gets him, they're going to certainly luck out. Jalen Duren, a little bit of Robert Williams, can block shots, can rim run, can really run the floor in an athletic fashion. Robert Williams, my player comp for him. All right, last few picks here to round out our mock draft lottery. Johnny Davis, one of the best scorers in the country this past year for Wisconsin, going to the New York Knicks. They need a guard who can put the biscuit in the basket, and Johnny Davis was able to do that all throughout this past year. Ty Washington actually just officially declared he's going to hire an agent. I have him going to the Portland Trailblazers at number 12, to the Charlotte Hornets at number 13, Ochai Agbaji. He was awesome in the Final Four game against Villanova, 6 of 7 from downtown. A rare senior as a lottery pick. I don't care about the age. It's kind of like last year with Chris Duarte coming out of Oregon. If you can play, and you can play right away, you have a spot on my team. Agbaji can certainly be that guy. Then Dyson Daniels out of the G League Ignite, rounding out the lottery to the Atlanta Hawks at number 14. The Aussie, good eye, mate, now playing with the G League. His stroke reminds me a little bit because it's so kind of finely tuned like a Danny Green, but his shooting numbers this year haven't been that good. He can play make. He is a very good athlete. He has some bounce and some movement to his step. If he can figure out that three-point shot, he will be a good player for a long time. Impressed a lot of people overseas in Australia and the land down under, and that is translated to the G League level as well. So that does it for Chat Sports' and my first NBA mock draft of the 2022 draft season. Grade it for me. How did I do? You can rip me in the comments. You can shred me. You can praise me. Let me know down below. A, B, C, D, or F. We're going to continue to pump out draft coverage here at Chat Sports, so make sure you subscribe to the channel as we get closer and closer to 300,000 subscribers as our company continues to grow like crazy. And a big reason for that, all of you watching our videos and supporting what we do. YouTube.com/ChatSportsTV, or hit that red subscribe button down below. Keep it locked for NFL news and rumors, college football news and rumors, NFL mock drafts, NBA mock drafts. We do it all because we ain't never scared here at Chat Sports.